Have you ever pondered over the real story behind Saddam Hussein's regime? Our journey begins with a young man, born in the heart of Iraq in the small village of Al-Auja. This man, Saddam Hussein, would rise from his modest beginnings to become one of the world's most infamous leaders. His rise to power was not a simple ascension, rather, it was a calculated game of alliances, betrayals, and strategic maneuverings. In his early years, Saddam was known for his cunning and political acumen. He quickly climbed the ranks of the Ba'ath Party, a political group that championed Arab unity and socialism. But Saddam's ambitions didn't stop at party politics. He had his sights set on the highest office in the land, the presidency of Iraq. His rise to power, however, wasn't without assistance. During the Cold War, a period of geopolitical tension between the superpowers of the East and the West, Saddam found unlikely allies. Recognizing an opportunity to gain a strategic foothold in the Middle East, Western powers saw Saddam as a potential ally against the perceived communist threat. This alliance, as one might expect, came with benefits for Saddam. His regime received political support, military aid, and most importantly, a blind eye to his brutal tactics. The West's backing emboldened Saddam, enabling him to consolidate power and control over Iraq. But what was the true cost of this alliance, and how did it shape the trajectory of Saddam's regime? These are questions that lead us to a complex web of international politics, strategic alliances, and the pursuit of power. Saddam's regime, it seems, was not an isolated chapter, but a part of a much larger global narrative. As we delve deeper into this tale, we will uncover the hidden truths that have been masked by the popular historical narratives and shed light on the real story of Saddam Hussein's rule. But what if the true narrative was about something more coveted than just power? Oil. The black gold, as it's often called, has been a cause of contention and conflict for centuries, and Iraq, sitting atop the world's fifth largest proven oil reserves, was no exception. In the heart of the Middle East, this nation was a treasure chest, a key player in a global energy economy. The oil fields of Iraq, rich and vast, were more than just resources. They were strategic assets that could tip the scales of power and influence. Now let's delve deeper into the shadows. The story that often goes untold is the covert operations aimed at controlling these oil reserves, operations that painted a new perspective on Saddam's regime. In the late 20th century, Western powers, with their insatiable thirst for oil, viewed Iraq as a vital pawn in their grand game. They were willing to go to great lengths to secure their interests, even if it meant supporting a dictator. Yes, it's a bitter pill to swallow, but the truth often is. Saddam Hussein, portrayed as the antagonist, the despot, was, in fact, a player in a game much larger than himself. A game where the stakes were high and the rewards, control over vast oil reserves, were tantalizing enough to justify the means. And so the narrative was spun, twisted to suit the needs of those who held the power. Saddam was painted as the villain, the threat to world peace, while the real game of chess was played in the shadows, hidden from the public eye. This isn't to absolve Saddam of his crimes, but rather to shed light on the bigger picture, the underlying currents that shape the course of history. It's a wake-up call, a reminder that history isn't always as it seems, and often, the true motives lie buried beneath layers of propaganda and misinformation. So, was Saddam just a pawn in the grand game of oil? It's a question that challenges the conventional wisdom, a question that beckons us to dig deeper, to uncover the truth that lies beneath the surface. And what about the infamous weapons of mass destruction? Were they just a fabrication? In 2003, the world witnessed a powerful narrative unfold. Iraq, under the rule of Saddam Hussein, was accused of harboring weapons of mass destruction, a claim that was used as a pretext for invasion. The narrative was persuasive, terrifying even. It painted a picture of a rogue state, armed to the teeth with deadly weaponry, ready to unleash chaos at a moment's notice. But as the dust of war settled, a stark reality emerged. The hunt for these alleged weapons led to naught. The menacing stockpiles of chemical, biological, and nuclear weaponry were nowhere to be found. No evidence of active programs to develop such weapons surfaced either. It was as if the weapons had vanished into thin air. Or perhaps they were never there to begin with. Subsequent investigations confirmed the latter. Reports, such as the one led by Charles Doolfer, the head of the Iraq Survey Group, concluded that Iraq had ended its nuclear, chemical, and biological programs by 1991, a full 12 years before the invasion. The alleged weapons, it seemed, were phantoms, conjured up by a narrative that needed a formidable enemy. The absence of these weapons of mass destruction was more than just a failure of intelligence. It was a stark reminder of the power of narratives, of the danger that lies in accepting them without question. It showcased how the fear of a phantom menace could lead to real-world consequences, to a war that claimed countless lives and destabilized an entire region. So, the question remains: why was this narrative of weapons of mass destruction so readily accepted, so vehemently defended, even in the face of mounting evidence to the contrary? And who stood to benefit from this narrative, from the war it justified? The alleged weapons, it appears, were nothing more than a phantom menace. Could the West have intentionally altered the narrative to suit their own interests? We're diving into a critical aspect of the Saddam Hussein saga, the role of Western powers in shaping the narrative around his regime. Picture this: it's the late 20th century. The Cold War is in full swing. Western powers, chiefly the United States, are deeply entrenched in a global chess game, seeking to advance their interests and contain the spread of communism. Enter Saddam Hussein, a strong, secular leader in the oil-rich Middle East. To the West, he was a valuable ally, a bulwark against the spread of Islamic fundamentalism and Iranian influence. They provided him with aid, weapons, and political support. But as the decades rolled on, their relationship began to sour. Saddam's ambitions grew larger, his actions more reckless, and so the narrative began to change. Saddam, once an ally, was now portrayed as a brutal dictator, a threat to world peace. The media painted a picture of a man with a lust for power, ready to unleash weapons of mass destruction upon the world. This narrative, crafted and propagated by Western powers, became the accepted truth. It justified a war that would have far-reaching consequences for Iraq and the Middle East. This manipulation of narrative, this selective storytelling, it's not just a matter of historical curiosity. It has very real, very tangible impacts. The invasion of Iraq in 2003, under the pretext of disarming Saddam of his non-existent weapons of mass destruction, resulted in an Iraq that was destabilized, fractured, and a breeding ground for extremist groups. The narrative that was sold to the world had catastrophic consequences for the people of Iraq. So we must always question the stories we are told, especially those that justify wars and interventions. History is not just the past, it shapes our present and our future. And often, beneath the surface of well-known historical narratives, there are truths that have been manipulated, distorted, or simply left out. In the end, the narrative we know might be just a carefully crafted illusion. So, have we been misled by the Western narratives? The question hangs in the air, a poignant reminder of the journey we've embarked on together. The story of Saddam Hussein, A Tale Retold, has exposed a series of historical narratives, each one shrouded in mystery and deceit. We've unmasked Saddam, revealing a man at the center of an intricate web of international politics. We've delved into the oil conspiracy, shedding light on how the world's thirst for this black gold played a pivotal role in shaping the fate of Iraq. We've unraveled the hoax of weapons of mass destruction, a specter that loomed over the world yet remained elusive, a phantom menace conjured for political gains. We've walked the path of Western manipulation, understanding how powerful nations and organizations have altered the narrative to suit their agendas. The real truth, it seems, was less about liberating a people and more about securing control over invaluable resources. Yet, the most important revelation of our journey is not merely about Saddam Hussein, but about the importance of questioning historical narratives. History, as they say, is written by the victors, but it's our responsibility to sift through the pages, to question, to seek the truth hidden beneath layers of propaganda and political maneuvering. Consider the consequences of accepting these narratives without scrutiny. It shapes our understanding of the world, influences our decisions, and ultimately affects the course of our future. The narrative of Saddam Hussein is but one example of how the truth can be manipulated and how it continues to impact the world today. So let us not accept history at face value. Let us challenge, question, and seek the truth. Because it's only when we question the conventional wisdom that we truly begin to understand the world around us. If you're intrigued by the unconventional, eager to challenge historical norms, and ready to explore the charted but with a different lens, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time.